welcome everyone to this edition of Talk of the Town. I'm James Milan. I am here today in the school committee room at Arlington High School with one of the school department's newer hires. John Danizio is the new Chief Financial Officer for Arlington Public Schools. So John, thanks very much for allowing us in to the school to talk to you today, introduce you to the community, and vice versa. So I know we were talking before we went on air that you are just 7 weeks now into this new position. Tell us what what you have done in your career that leads you up to this point.
Sure. Thank you very much. So I graduated from Bentley College in 1997, and I went to work for an internet company during the boom. And it was great. It was quite an experience. It was a small company, so you got to work in all aspects of it. We sold internet access equipment, so got to do some sales, a lot of operations, a lot of accounting, budgeting, cash management, things like that. So
real breadth of experience, right, I'm sure.
You become a jack of all trades when it's a small company like that. From there, I was looking for a new challenge, and I live and grew up in Woburn, and there was an opportunity in their auditor's office, which controls the budget for the city. And I thought, $100 million company, that's not bad. Maybe try to give that a try. So I applied and went to work at Woburn, and that was my first time being in the municipal side. That was on the city side, and really liked it. That was in 2004. During that time working there, I did a lot of work with the school department on audits and procedures and really some in-depth stuff. And met my mentor, Joe Elia, who's the business manager in Woburn, assistant superintendent of finance, and worked a lot with him and got my license and started looking for maybe moving into the role I'm in now, school business manager. And started in Salem for a couple of years. Wanted to really be closer to home. I had a young family, spending a lot of time in the car. So opportunity in Winchester opened up, and then I was there for 8 years until 7 weeks ago.
All right, so born and raised in Woburn, and then working, once you crossed over from the private to the public sector, sounds like Woburn, Winchester, and Arlington right in this area, and then Salem you got tired of, because who wouldn't get tired of that commute if you've got choices such as the ones you've now taken. So the work that you were in Winchester immediately preceding this, and how long was that for?
So I was in Winchester for 8 years.
And were you doing the same job, a similar job?
Yeah, so school business manager is what the license is, and that's, they call it different in different towns.
So I wasn't wrong in saying Chief Financial Officer, or?
Correct. The title here is CFO, Chief Financial Officer. In Winchester, technically it's called Director of Finance and Operations. Everybody calls it something different, but the licensure is School Business Administrator, and that's sort of what everybody in the field calls it. Oh, you're the school business manager, or you're the manager of the school business office. So okay. That's the term everybody uses.
Mm-hmm. And tell us just a little bit. I mean, I know that your experience in the private sector goes back some years now, but what is fundamentally different about doing the kind of work that you do within a school context versus other environments?
So in the school, your customers, if you will, are the students. It's not like any environment I've worked in before. They were sales driven, and if you needed more money, you got more sales, or you borrowed more money, or you cut some people. It's not as easy in a school setting. Obviously, we don't have sales, and the money we get comes from the taxpayers, and you can't just go to the taxpayers and say we need more money, right now. It's not as easy to just cut people. You can't gotta have someone in front of the kids. So I think that's the biggest difference is, we're really we're really just here to support the kids. Everything we do has to be with their best interest in mind.
Well, you were mentioning there that you can't just go to the taxpayers and say we need more money right now, But here in Arlington, as you're well aware, all signs are that we will be going to the taxpayers. I'm one of them, so they will be coming to us to fund the rebuild of the high school, perhaps even other expenses related to the continual expansion of Arlington schools because of the continual expansion of Arlington's enrollment, as we're well aware. So that's the situation you're stepping into, one in which we're looking at, I think, going to the voters for an override sometime in the next couple of years. How does that challenge stack up against stuff that you were doing in previous positions that you've been in?
So in Winchester, I did work a little bit with the committee that was in charge of supporting gathering support for the override for the high school in Winchester. So it's it is quite a challenge because you're asking people to make a big commitment and a long-term commitment and a lot of money. So you just have to make sure that you have enough information. The correct information, that people trust the information, so people can make an informed decision and know that, make your case that it is what's best for not only the students but for the town to have a state-of-the-art high school to educate our learners to be the future leaders. They need to have the right environment, and sometimes that costs more.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, I think people are aware of what both the physical plant challenges are here in the building, and other ways and reasons for which it probably makes sense to look for this now. What is as far as you understand it, what is your specific role in that process as the business manager, chief financial officer? You pick. In terms of title, but what role will you be expected to play in that process?
So I have had several meetings about it already, and I'm still learning. I know Arlington is somewhat unique in my opinion. They have the Longrange Financial Planning Committee. I haven't seen that before a lot of times.
So other schools or municipalities you've been part of?
Right, yeah, it's a smaller group. Getting together, trying to work some numbers to then pitch it to the bigger groups. I think here you're really set up for success by having all the stakeholders in the room at the same time, hearing the same information, being able to have input, to check the data themselves, to validate it. My role is really as providing the data, not so much to review it on the long-term scale, but to provide the data from the school department specific about enrollment, about budget, and and to make sure that there's some credibility there, some trust there, that they can rely on that data. So I think it's a critical role, but I'm looking forward to it, and I really do think it's a great setup for success to have everybody there, and like I said, it is unique. I haven't seen that before.
Yeah, we have touched on the work of the Long-Range Planning Committee as part of Talk of the Town and other public affairs programming that ACMI produces. And as you say, it does gather in one room consistently early on in the process people from all the different from the finance committee through the school committee and on the town side, et cetera, to make sure, as you say, that they're moving forward with everybody on the same page, which does sound encouraging. One thing, though, that you were mentioning, which I wanted to ask you about, something that people have been, that Arlington residents have talked about over the last number of years, is how off some of the projections were going back 5 years or so. Around school enrollment, for instance, and how, best illustrated perhaps by the fact that our newest rebuild of an elementary school, the Thompson School, needed to then have an addition put on because of unanticipated enrollment in very short order. Do you, in providing the information that you do to long-range planning and other parts of this process, are you expected to make projections as part of that, or are you more describing the current situation as it is, this year's budget or next year's budget or something like that?
I think it's more the latter. I know they've had some work done here by some, I think maybe a demographer they had come in and do. Having worked with enrollment for quite some time now, and in a town that had enrollment growth, but nothing like Arlington's unprecedented enrollment growth over recent history. It is a frustrating thing when you have a group of kids that are already here and predicting what the cohort rate is going to be. You can look at some data and say, yeah, it tends to be 100%, 102%, whatever it is. That's easy with the kids that are here. What comes in, the people that aren't here, that move in or that either aren't on a census or that's difficult and frustrating for, projections. It's great to have with kids, but I think our kindergarten this year is over 500 for, I think the first time, in a while. That's a lot of kindergartners.
Right,
Our high
and
school
a lot
has,
of people coming in on that end of the...
Right, yeah, the high school has 300 kids in a class, and the younger grades closer to 500. It's better to know now, because we have some time to plan, but it's still not an easy conversation to have. I mean, it's a testament to the town. People want to come here. It's a testament to the school department, obviously. It's a great reputation and a great place to live, so I guess it's a good problem to have, but still.
Right, it's one that will continue to unspool. I'm sure we may be talking to you about it further in the future. I wanted to switch topics a little bit and just ask you, people may, and I myself am somewhat, not confused, but wondering in terms of if the position that you're in here is called Chief Financial Officer here in Arlington, how is it that you fit in, that position fits into the, the organizational chart, so to speak, of the school system? Who do you report to? Who reports to you, et cetera?
So one way to look at it is it's sort of the budget director. So I report to the superintendent as part of her cabinet or her leadership team, and also to the school committee. So day to day, I report to the superintendent, and on a higher level, we all sort of report to the school committee. I'm appointed by the school committee. We have the business office that kind of, the way the org chart would work, I guess the business office there's, the school committee, obviously, superintendent and the leadership team. And then we all kind of have our own department that works for us. We have, accountant, budget person in our office, purchasing, accounts payable, accounts receivable, someone doing all those functions. So it's a great office. As far as how you fit into the town, in my few weeks here, I've been able to be invited to 2 of the finance team meetings for the town. So assistant town manager invited me to sit with that team that meets monthly. So that's great to be able to be in the know and also have the school department's input. It's probably the biggest department.
Basically the school department's representative at that meeting?
Yeah, it's informal meeting.
Right.
It's a finance team, so it's assessing, it's treasurer, it's the budget person, it's assistant town manager, it's comptroller. It's good to be with that group, hear what's going on in the other departments, let them know what's going on in our department. I'm not sure if they had that before. I've had relationships with town hall, obviously, in every place I've worked, but not to the level where you're invited to those type of meetings. So
right.
It's good. It's good to have everybody know what's going on here, and for us to know a little bit about the challenges everybody else is having. And part of the reason we're there is we all use the same integrated accounting system. So to know what's new with that and what's next with that, and making sure we're all using it to the best of its ability is crucial, and there's a lot of projects going on with that. So that's
that sounds like another reflection of the way that the town tends to do business, as you were saying, which does seem both useful, efficient, and even promising going forward. Getting a bunch of stakeholders in the same room at the same time, making sure they're looking at the same data, or in this case, making sure that you're working with the same system and everybody's understanding it, et cetera, does seem like a way to forestall communications issues and problems that so often plague.
Yeah, in every relationship, I think communication is the key, and they do a good job here to make sure there's ample opportunity to communicate, and so those surprises don't come up.
So we have already discussed, and I think again everybody's going to be aware of one of the bigger, or perhaps biggest, challenge that for you and your job going forward, which is the impending override. But wanted to ask you, what are other either challenges that you see and are looking forward to tackling, or ambitions, plans that you come in to this position with that may play out over the next, well, you pick the time frame that you'd like to talk about.
Sure. So in the short term, the biggest challenge for me is patience. Is to have patience. I'm in the 3L mode right now: look, listen, and learn, and that's tough. Not coming from I was just somewhere for 8 years, so you know what's going on, and you don't have to. I'll have to get back to you on that, and I say that more than I'd like right now, but that's one short-term challenge, is the patience, and the long-term challenge is to really build the credibility of the office and maintain it, and manage an effective and efficient business office, and that can you have to have transparency, you have to have trust, you have to make sure that the department heads of the school, the principals and everybody can rely on you, and that will come with the same communication like we talked about before, making sure everybody has the information and that it's correct.
I'm not sure if there is any, I don't mean this in any way to denigrate or to undersell the work that you do, but I'm not sure if there's a place for creativity there. So I don't know if it's if it makes any sense to ask you the question, well, do you have any, again, creative, innovative, different kinds of ideas, something you had thought about before but haven't had a chance to integrate, and now here you are in a new situation with probably quite cooperative partners around you. I wondered whether you had any ideas of things that you would like to see, either like to try or like to see implemented?
Yeah, I think in our role in the business office, the creativity comes with resource allocation. Sometimes you have to be creative because a problem came up, and when our budgets are approved, there's not reserve funds or stuff for the unanticipated, but those things do come up, and you want to be able to handle them yourself, and that's really where the creativity comes, because you get some people together and you say, I've been thinking about how can we deliver this service differently, that we can maybe save some money to be able to do this, or what, unfortunately, sometimes it comes down to what can we put off to next year.
Right.
But then you want to try to be, how can we be creative to still get that done, and maybe use some resources that we never thought of before, or haven't used in that way before. But I would say that that's where you can be a little bit creative, and at budget time you're moving everybody forward, you're making sure you're accounting for everybody, you're figuring out what changes we're going to make, and but then the big part of it is the reallocation. Okay, we're not going to do this, or we're going to deliver this service different, and now what can we do with that money, or
Yeah, that does sound. I mean, I think that you construed my rather open-ended question well, in that I think that you're right. Clearly, a lot of what you do, and a lot of the most challenging part of what you do, is react to. It's either putting out fires or mostly reacting to unanticipated, I would think, consequences, and trying to figure out how best to deal with that within the parameters of the budget that you've set.
Right. Yeah, I would say you spend probably the most of your time on resource allocation and how do we squeeze something out of here to cover this thing we didn't think of, or these group of students that we didn't know were coming here. Or, but yeah,
those challenges, I'm sure, will never cease.
Right.
No matter what the overall fiscal situation is or the overall enrollment situation, it's always going to be something. I think, right?
Right.
we always like on Talk of the Town to delve at least a little bit into things outside of the job that you do and that we're mostly here talking about. So just wondering, how is it that you enjoy spending your time outside of working hours? What are the things that are important to you beyond this work?
Yeah, so most of my time is outside of work is probably spent with kids' sports. I have, that will probably be less and less. I have 3 daughters. Nicole's 24, and she's a special ed teacher in Winchester. And Casey's going to Endicott College. She's going to be a freshman, and Ashley's in 10th grade at Woburn High. So Casey and Ashley, for the past few years, have been both playing sports and both playing multiple sports. So that's been, pretty much anything I do outside of work is that.
Lots of parents can relate to that.
Yeah, yep. You make some great friends doing that, and that's a lot of the group I hang out with now is the group that I met through that. Some of my best friends. So it's great. But most of my time outside of work is spent doing something with the kids or going to watch something with the kids. So, as my kids grow up, when you're in it, you think, wow, this is tiring. And then now as there's less of it, I think, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, no, that's a very good point, and I have to say one that I relate to as well, having 2 children now, both graduate, just the younger of which just recently graduated in May from college, and just thinking, wow, that did feel like some long hours back there watching, this game after that game, or et cetera. And of course, I would trade.
Yeah, wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I wouldn't trade that for anything, and I would trade some things right now to be able to go back and do that a little bit more.
Yep, definitely. I'm coming up on that now. So,
so 7 weeks into the job and working in a brand new school building, and one that is, I don't know, I can tell you has been a challenge for me to navigate sometimes. Any interesting stuff, fun stuff that's happened already in the time that you've been on the job?
So I've already, in this building alone, gotten lost 3 times, going down to the comptroller's office, trying not to take the elevator and go a different route. The main office, believe it or not, I didn't find that one time. You would think that being on the main floor, right in the front, it would have been easy to find.
No, I wouldn't think that.
But I'm starting to get a complex because I got lost in the building. I've gotten lost going to all the schools so far. The only schools I've been able to find easy is Audison, because my kids played basketball there. So I knew where it was. But I'm starting to think I'm geographically challenged now.
Well, summer is a good time to be geographically challenged, right? You've now made all those mistakes, and you're ready for the fall to begin, and maybe new mistakes out there in the future, but I'm sure you'll find your way to the school.
Yeah, hopefully I can find my way a little faster. That'd be great.
I just wanted to invite you to, in case it's been a fairly wide-ranging and comprehensive conversation from my end, but I did want to invite you, in case there's anything that you wanted to share with the Arlington community that we haven't covered about the work you do or any other aspect of your life and your new job here in Arlington. Wanted just to invite you to say anything you'd like about that.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's just excitement. I've been here for 7 weeks. It's been the summer, so I had a couple of vacations. So I'm just sort of still getting my feet wet and trying to get my hands around things. But I'm just very excited to be working here, and like all the people that keep with students that keep moving here. I'm excited to be coming here too, and looking forward to the challenges, and looking forward to learning more about this building and what the future of this building is, and working with all the committees that my position gets to be liaison for, the building committees and the Capitol and the Longrange Planning and all. So everybody I've worked with so far has been great. My counterparts on the city side and the town side rather, and everybody I've met in the school department so far. But today's first day back for teachers, so I got to meet a lot of new people today, and they were excited, and so that's me, just excited to get going.
Very, very glad to have you on board, and yeah, it's going to be an exciting time. There's no doubt that there will be daunting aspects of what's to come over the next few years in terms of the changes right in this building, as you've said. But it also, how often do you get that opportunity, right, to be right there at the beginning and through a process of that's, you know, so kind of fundamental and bedrock to a community as the building of a high school that will hopefully last like this one has for decades and decades.
Yeah, when I was in Woburn, liaison to when they built their high school. Salem was just finishing theirs when I went there, and Winchester was obviously there for the whole time. So,
yeah,
been around the block a little bit on it, so I'm looking forward to it. And
yeah,
it's great.
Well, hopefully you'll be like the school reconstruction whisperer in some way. We'll hope for that.
All right.
John, thanks very much.
Thanks very much for having
taking
me.
the time with us today, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Great.
For John Danizio, the new, and I'm going to call him this again, the new CFO, Chief Financial Officer for Arlington Public Schools, for Talk of the Town. I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us.